Hello, welcome to this video on charts. Depending on the version of Excel you are using, you will have 11 or more charts. So if you're using Excel 2007, Excel 2010, and Excel 2013, you're going to have 11 charts. This 11 charts that I have listed here. And if you're using 2016, you will have either 5 or 7 more charts, right? So if your 2016 is not the most recent, you're going to have Treemap, Sunburst. You're going to have everything up till here. Then if you have the more recent 2016 or even the 2018 or is it 2019 that is out now, or if you use Office 365, then you're going to have the whole 18 charts. All right, so question number 1. Do you need to know all of these 18 chart types? Well, the truth is, I can't say. No knowledge is lost, so it's good if you have an idea what all these charts are about. So question number 2, will you need to use all of these 18 different chart types? So here is where I have a more straightforward answer. Even if you know how to use all the 18 chart types, I would not recommend that you use all of them. There are 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is, first, before I mention the reason number 1, these first 4 are the ones that you will need to focus a lot more on. And so reason number 1, these 4 charts, regardless of the kind of data you have, they can represent the insight in those data. Chart is all about visualizing the insights in your analysis, making pictorial what the data is actually saying. So these first 4 charts can present the data, the insight in any data type, right? But that's not even the big reason. That's not the main reason. The main reason is that these are the charts that people naturally can interpret without any help, without them having to go for a special training or being technically minded, right? So you don't want a situation where you are technically correct, but then you are practically useless. What you've done makes sense technically, but then no one else can use it. The people you're trying to communicate with in your companies and your colleagues, they can't understand it because, well, it's too technical for them. And so in general business data analysis, these are the 4 charts you will have to focus on. But then there are exceptions, right? Depending on the industry you work in, you will find out that one or more of these other chart types are ones that again, you will have to, they're regular in that your industry. For instance, in the oil industry, I find that they use area chart a lot. If you work in the research, academia, or you work in strategy, you find out that you use XY scatter chart. And if you're a stockbroker or you work with a financial investment company, then the stock chart is a chart that you will, even if you don't need to create, you will need to know how to interpret. It's popularly referred to as a candle and stick chart, right? Candlestick chart. Like that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to first of all pay a lot more attention to these 4 ones. These are the ones that you really need to know how to use. And even me as a consultant, I try a lot to stick to those 4 charts because I don't want a situation where what I've done makes sense to me but doesn't make sense to the other people that are going to use my reports. So let's start with column chart. Column chart is the most used chart in Excel, right? It is to show data for different categories. Now, when we say different categories, here is a sample of data to illustrate. So these are different regions, right? So different regions in Nigeria. So the company revenue by different regions. The very word different, is that not again emphasizing that different, in this case, regions, right? And you find out that whenever you have a situation that you can point and say different region, different people, even different periods, column chart works nicely. So it does a chart for every single category. Southwest is represented by a bar that is independent, and so it does an independent bar for every single category. So it's the simplest to use. Everybody understands it. If the height of your bar is higher than mine, then obviously you are performing way better than me. So the insight is easy to grasp. Then there is line chart. Line chart is to show trend, right? So what do we mean by trend? Trend is how something is changing over time. So that's why I had to put in brackets here that there must be a time component. If there's no time component, then don't do a line chart, right? So take, for instance, I have this data. By the way, to do chart is very straightforward, which I will come to after I'm done with the explanation of this theoretical definition. You select just the thing you want to plot a chart for. You go to insert. This is where you will find chart, and you pick the kind of chart you want to do. So now let me show you. If I pick this data, there is no time component in it. These are just different regions. They are not different dates or different years or different months. And I go and select line chart. It's not that the line won't plot. It will plot, but it's just that it will be meaningless. What are we saying? Are you saying as something is going from southwest to southeast to south-south, it's changing? The only way I can explain this is if I say this is a train, this is a rail line, and so the rail goes from southwest to southeast to south-south to north. As far as business data is concerned, this makes no sense, right? So it only makes sense if it was something like this, where I have different years or different months, and then you are showing as you're going from the previous year to the current year, this is how the revenue or expenses or whatsoever it is you're tracking has changed. So that is it about line chart. Then pie chart. Pie chart is to show relative contribution. It's actually the easiest to interpret chart, of all them all, right? It shows a big circle for everything, and then by the slices, by the sectors, by the different pies in those in that circle, you get to see who is performing better than the rest, who is contributing the lion's share, who is contributing the monkey share, who is contributing the hand share. So very easy to interpret. The only problem is you only use it when you are certain that you have everything, you have something that adds up to a sensible bulk. What do I mean? This is representing the whole of Nigeria, the different regions in Nigeria. If, for instance, I do not have data for one of the regions, maybe Northwest, now you will notice that the figures here will be distorted. Now it's showing Northeast as 30%, but when I get the figures for Northwest, Northeast becomes 22%. So because the shape of the pie is actually a closed circle, right? It kind of paints the picture of this is everything. So it's wrong when you don't have everything. Make sure that you have everything. You have something that equals a meaningful whole before you try to use a pie chart. So that's the only thing you should do on the design end. But as per interpretation is easy. Okay, so then I go to bar chart. Bar chart is exactly column chart. So you'll notice the definitions are even the same, right? The only difference is, whereas column chart has its bar standing, bar chart has its bar sideways. So the advantage is just purely a design one. If I've done a column chart for this is how it will look like. Okay, so see, the names are slanting, right? See, these names are slanting because they're actually long. And so say maybe I increase the size of the chart, they're still slanting. So you get the whole problem. Whereas if I had done just a bar chart straight up, I don't face that problem that much, right? So just a little adjustment, and you notice that everything is showing, without slanting. So it's just a design difference. Sometimes you find out that your data is better represented as a bar chart than a column chart because of something like the slanting that is happening in this case. So those are the ones that you really need to know very well. And then before I try to talk about the others, right, maybe I'll try and quickly take us through how to do the charts and then what we call chart elements, right? So to build the chart, let's start with column charts. I select the data that I want to draw a column chart for. I go to insert, I pick the column chart I want, and then voila, it's done, right? To do the chart is very easy and straightforward. The only other things you need to be aware of, which regardless of the kind of chart you are doing, they are all present, is what we call chart elements. So if you're using Excel 2013 and above, like I'm using 2016, but if you also use 2013, this is how you access it. You click on the chart you've done, and then you will see, it's refused to come out in mine, you see a green arrow. So it's come out now. So great. So you see this green arrow, right? When you click on it, you see what we call the chart elements. If you're using the older version of Excel, you see right after this design, in between design and format, you will see another menu called layout. And so when you click on that layout, you again see, all what you are seeing here in mine will be showing right underneath that menu across horizontally this way. All right, so let's start. What do this menu do? Right, let's start with axis. Right, if you disable axis, it's always enabled by default. If you disable it, I don't think you will like what you will see, but this is what it does. All of these are the axis. What you would have called y-axis, x-axis, Excel calls vertical axis, horizontal axis. How did I know? Well, click here and you see horizontal, vertical. And all right, so that is what axis does. Then axis title, if you would like to have an axis title, maybe for the two different axes, the horizontal, the vertical, you can add the axis title. And so maybe I would say this is actual or audited revenue figures. Audited revenue, whatsoever you want to give it, financial years. So that's what the axis title does. And then there's chart title. Again, you just put the title for the chart and you can rename. I can call it right. And the interesting thing is, if you have a name that's already in your Excel sheet, well, all you have to just do is click on those chart title once, do equal to. That equal to you've done, you will see it here, you won't see it on the chart title. And then you go pick on the cell that has the name you want, and you do enter, and it picks that name instantly. So that is chart title. Then there's data label. Data label is when you click on it, it allows you to see the actual data value, right on top, beside, inside the data bars themselves. So you can change the positioning to whatever you like, but then again, it shows you the data. That's all it does. It shows you the values, right on the chart. I'm going to disable some of these so that the chart doesn't get too crowded. Then there's data table. If you enable data table, it shows you the actual table of the data that is being used to plot the chart right below the bars in the chart. Again, all these things I'm saying, these chart elements, they are the same also if you're using line chart or any of these other charts we're going to talk about, right? So this knowledge can be carried over to those ones. And then there is a error bars. I really don't know what error bars does, but then from the name you get an idea is to do something about errors, right? Never had to use it, so I'm going to disable it and also disable the data table. Then there's grid lines. Grid lines are these background lines, right? So you can remove it if you don't want. You can. The default is just it shows major horizontal grid lines. If you want more than that, you can go in front and enable as many other kinds of grid lines you would like to see. Okay, so I think I'm okay with the default. Then there's legend. Legend is, well, right now it might not look very useful, but in case I had, say, maybe expenses here, right, and then I have figures here, so maybe they are all 60,000 or 60 million. Okay, and one cool thing about Excel is see what I'm doing. I'm typing that thing in just once, but instead of me doing enter, I've selected all of these cells before typing. Instead of me doing enter, I'll do control enter, and it places those values across all those cells at once. It places that value across all those cells at once. So then another interesting bit, if I want the structure to the design to look like the one for revenue, I can do format painter and I paint it across the expenses one. So now if click on any chart, you always see the lines to represent what you selected to draw that chart, and you can edit. I can expand this to capture this extra. And so this is the real advantage of the legend. You see, it's showing me that the blue ones are for revenue and the red ones are for expenses. So that's interesting. The only thing is I like to have it either at the top or at the bottom, because sideways makes it use a lot more space, shrinking your chart. So I like to put it bottom or top, so whichever you like you do. Then there's trendline. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this. Let me just undo a couple of times. All right, so I take off the legend. So trendline allows you to see a trend. Are your data generally trending upwards or flat or downwards? This will only be good again for data that have some time component. Okay, so those are the chart elements, and in case you've come across people's chart with some of these things popping up there, this is how they included them. All right, so now we go to line chart. By the way, as per the look and feel, so let me just undo this. You can always select any aspect of your chart and recolor. All the coloring part are in format, so I can say I want this color to be whatever color I want. That's what color it will give me, right? And if you like some of these pre-designed styles, you can pick them, and you can select even the whole chart itself and choose any style you like. So maybe you like this, whatever you like you pick. So as per the design aspect, well, you just take a look at the format menu and you can adjust as you like. Okay, so now let's do line charts. And one interesting bit about this line chart I want to do is again, I could have done a line chart on this and it will make complete sense in terms of what I have there are financial years, and that's a time component. So if I come here, select the same data, I do line, voila, it's done. And if you take a look at the menu, it's the same chart elements, when you go to this plus sign or layouts if you're using the older versions of Excel, and you have exactly the same things I've explained. So that's why I say that knowledge carries over to the other types of charts. Now I want to do something really interesting. Here I have a data. These are years, but you notice these years are numeric figures, right? So if I select them, right, and I try to do a line chart, what I'm expecting is something like this, but see what will happen. This is what it does. Now what it has done is it has plotted years as if they are values, instead of using it as a label as it is here, right? So this is one common problem you will encounter if what you would have used as a label is actually a numeric figure. These things are figures as far as Excel is concerned. Even if you try to format as text, well, as far as the chart is concerned, they are still figures. So how do you fix this? Whenever you have a problem like this, where what you will have liked to use as a label is being plotted, right there on your chart, then what you will do is you select the chart, you go to design, and you do select data. It brings out the chart engine, and so here I can remove what I don't want to plot. So you see in this legend series, only what you need to plot should be there. I'm not planning to plot the years which are in front of this your BZ SA2. So what I'll do is I select this your BZ SA2, I do remove. Now you're beginning to see that it's looking like what I want, right? And so the axis labels is actually what these years should have been. So you see, I just select it for it, and voila, it's done. So in case you encounter that kind of a problem, that is how you fix it. So line chart is also very straightforward. Then bar chart. So before bar chart, let me do pie chart. So for pie chart, I think I'm going to use this other one because I have something more relevant for pie charts here. So I'm going to upload all these. You will find them in the resource file. So pie chart, I have an entire region. I have separate regions in Nigeria, and so I select, I go to insert, I go to pie chart, I pick a pie chart. So one thing about pie chart is the default design. I don't really like it because two problems. You have to start matching the colors, and if you're not very good with color like me, that's like an exercise in itself. And then again too, when you have things that are similarly sized, you can't easily tell which is bigger, or by how much is one aspect bigger than the other. And so what I do a lot of times is, after doing this, you go to design, and then you see quick layout, and then you pick layout 1. If you're using the older versions of Excel, you won't see the quick layout this way, where I'm seeing these chart styles. You will see chart layout and then you pick the first one, but it will display this way, right? So me, I go to this quick layout and I pick layout 1, and then voila, it's done. It puts the labels right on inside the charts, the spies, and then it also shows you the percentage contribution, so you can easily compare and see which is bigger by how much is bigger. Okay, so bar, we've done that. Maybe I'll just do it all over again. You select the data you want to do a bar chart for, you go to bar, and voila, it is done. And every other thing I mentioned about chart elements, you have it also in here. So what I'm going to now do is I'll try and let you get familiar with the other chart types, but like I said, these are the 4 ones you really need to make the most use of, and sometimes even try to limit yourself to using. You don't want a situation where you do something that makes sense to you but doesn't make sense to the other party, the people you're going to be sharing the reports with. All right, so area chart. This is what an area chart looks like. It's like a line chart with the bottom part shaded. That's what I call it most often, right? So it's also very easy to do. It's just you select. So every chart we do is you selecting and picking the kind of chart that you like to have. Let me see where area chart is going to be. I think it is right here. So you can pick the kind of area chart you want. All right, so this is area chart. I noticed in the oil industry they use it a lot. This is X and Y scatter chart. It's for showing relationship between 2 variables. And in secondary school, elementary school, this is the kind of charts we were drawing when you have a graph book, and then you have y-axis, you have x-axis, and what's the relationship between maybe GDP and employee rate between X and Y, and you want to plot, and then you want to see if one goes up, does the other one go up. And so this is the chart. Again, it's very easy. You select the data, you go to insert, you pick the X and Y, scatter chart. All right, so I'm going to skip right along to the new charts in Excel, the Treemap. This is what the Treemap looks like. The cool thing about it is it adjusts. So if you reshape the chart, right, everything in it adjusts. It's always rectangular, so it makes good sense if you want to print on some paper, and then you are really conscious about the size, the shape, because there is constraint based on the size of the paper or what have you. So this is something you will find of value as regard this, and it always arranges the data from the highest to the smallest, so it's hierarchical. Even though it's showing Shegun first, Shegun is number 2 in the data, unlike column chart, that if I had done column chart or any other chart, it's always by the arrangement in my table. See, Shegun comes second here, whereas it's first here. So that's another thing to know about Treemap. Sunburst, it's another hierarchical chart. The cool thing about it is, as you know, the sun has an inner core, an outer core. So this is the way this works, right? So all of Nigeria, then all the breakdown, so it explodes into the different cities in Nigeria, and then like that. So if I have maybe another level of breakdown after the city, maybe I have all the Lagoses exploding into the streets, then you have, there's no limit to the level of breakdown you can have, right? So this is the cool thing about hierarchical. Sometimes I make good use of it because kind of it's easy to interpret. I don't think someone will see this and get lost about what it's trying to present. And then there's histogram. If you are statistically inclined, then you won't have a problem understanding this. If you need to use it, well, now you have it in Excel, but as a default chart. It's box and whisker is another statistical chart to show the measures of central tendency, minimum, maximum, first quartile, second quartile, median, mean, third quartile, and like that. And then it's waterfall, the financial analyst favorite, darling. It shows changes in this case now net cash flow. And so if you are in that section of if you're in that industry where waterfall makes a lot of sense and you guys use it a lot, then you'll find that no more stress in creating it. You can create it right easily from Excel, without having to do anything complicated. It's now part of the default charts you have, waterfall. And there's funnel charts. If you're a salesperson and you're trying to keep track of your conversion rate, things that there's like a funnel, that shows each stage of some definite processes, and then how things go from one wide coverage to something less wide, but then more interesting, more important. And then this shows you a way to visualize those kind of data. And field map is really interesting. All what you do is data that there is a country, there's location data. So in this case, I have states in Nigeria. If you have data that is like countries or whatsoever, states in your own country or regions in your own country, Excel is really smart. You just pick map, it's field map, and then you must be connected to internet. Then after a couple of minutes or seconds, you see it pop up with a map. So it's really intelligent, uses Bing map. Right, so that is it, and that is it for charts. See you in the next section.